opening opposition is to disregard all of the argument from opening government talking about relatabilities and individual empowerment, because I think opening government did not pay attention enough to the explanation of my first speaker that we were more than willing to have as diverse as possible in terms of role models. So I think accommodations to different individuals, different identities, different passions as possible on the side of the house. So I think the case from opening governments, it just doesn't make sense, right? So this left opening government with the only arguments about group rights and how we can create like communal fights against the negative stereotype that is currently happening inside the United States. I'm also going to address that in my first issue. So I'm going to talk about three issues mainly. One, I'm going to talk about group rights, communal fights, group fights from opening government. Second, I'm going to talk about the impact, why our impact is much more important and comparative to their impact. Thirdly, I'm going to talk about the intrinsic harm of this stereotype. I think opening government do not really talk about the intrinsic harm irrespective of the impact, and why then the minority communities, POC communities, should not embrace these stereotypes. First, let's talk about group fights. I think what opening government forgets in this debate is that there is no explanation as to why then the positive portrayal of the African Americans liking music and having stereotypes of being a good singer cancel out the stereotypes that they are criminals, they are violent. I think these are not the automatic replacement. It's not that you put a positive portrayal and then the negative portrayal suddenly gone, right? I think there's no explanation from opening government to that. But most importantly, the negative stereotypes, understanding that the negative stereotypes create significant harms toward the communities of black people, Asian people, for example. These are the issues that was being picked by the community themselves, doing like Black Lives Matters and etc. and etc. I think opening government talk about, oh, Black Lives Matter is not efficient. This is not talking about efficiency. This is talking about whether there has been an effort for you to counter that stereotype that is currently being portrayed in the conservative media. We're also talking about individuals like politicians like Andrew Yang, Barack Obama, that is continuously trying to talk about the negative stereotype that is continuously being counterbalanced by the people who is currently being on top of the position. We don't necessarily trying to explain that black people is physically strong, right? I think it is important for you to recognize all of the harm that was provided by opening government. It's not the harm that we should prioritize in this debate. But thirdly, even if you have an acceptance on the side of the house, you need to notice that the acceptance on the side of the house is a selective acceptance. This means that the acceptance that's going to happen in opening government is acceptance where individuals fits to the standard that is imposed by the society. What does this mean? This means that individuals on the side of the house, who is most likely going to be protected, is the individuals who is going to be excelled on the side of the house as well. These are the most privileged part of the individuals inside the minority communities. You talk about rich black people, you talk about rich Asian people that is going to be protected on the side of the house as well. So understand on the side of the house you don't have selective acceptance, right? You know, on the side of the house you don't have this positive portrayal. But Asians who is currently smart and intellectual are still working on Google anyway, right? So on the outside of the house you don't need to have this positive portrayal being embraced by the minority community for you in order to protect this individual who is currently being protected. So that's not the kind of people that we are talking about in this debate. We're talking about the most vulnerable part of the minority communities that we let out in the first speakers. We give you three analyses as to why this is harmful. One, we talk about the harm of microaggressions to people from people outside of the minorities. We talk about a lot of continuous bullying from the people, especially white teenager, for example, to an Asian teenager who do not excel at mathematics, who's not academically performing well, and this continuous bullying results into a lot of rate of suicide inside students and teenagers. We talk about the state provision and treatment to the people of colors. So I'm going to give you one example on why this is really alarming, right? So the reasons why police take precautions in shooting the black people first before they attack them is mainly because of the perception that the black people are physically strong. This becomes the probable causes for the police to shoot them first before these black people attacks them. And this is rooted from the fact that there is a perception of a physical strength of the black people inside the society that is continuously being entrenched to the police department. So it's not only about microaggression, it's not only about individuals' development, it's about the real issues. People are being shot on the street because of the perceptions that gives them that gives the policy that gives the police officer, for example, probable causes to shoot them first and cause them the oppressions. But most importantly, these also perceptions that continuously entrench through generations on individual empowerment, like what opening government would like to say. I think my first speaker has laid out to you that how the perception entrenched inside the family, the family of the people of color, about this positive portrayal that was being imposed by the white people to their communities. You talk about Asian moms, Asian parents, you talk about black parents who continuously pressure their kids to go into athletic clubs, for example, or Asian parents who continuously push their kids to learn Excel. I think it is important for you to understand that this entrenched into generations that limits individual freedom and outside the house. So when you talk about selective acceptance in opening government, compared to a more freedom and more flexibility in opening opposition, I think freedom and flexibility is far more important in comparative to protecting individuals who is already protected in status quo, like what opening government would like to talk about in this debate. Before that, any POIs? All right. Alright, let's go to the last issues about intrinsic harm. So this is the argument irrespective of the impact of the perceptions. We give you 3 layers of analysis why there is an intrinsic harm of this stereotype. One, we talk about the natures of the perceptions that is non-representative. These perceptions and stereotypes comes from the white people, and it's becoming the reasons why white people take the black people out of Africa to become a slave in America, because they think that black people is physically strong. So this is a tool of oppressions, basically, from the white people to the black people, and this stereotype is not at all empowering. It's not a compliment, by the way, to say that black people are strong. It's an oppression. But second of all, this perception is also the transition of the racial power structures. It's talking about the power asymmetry between white people and the people of colors, and how much power they have over each other. We think that this perception is entrenched, and as an easy translation on how white people say they have massive power over control on what the people of color and the ethnic minority should look like, should behave inside the societies, and how they should function within societies. But most importantly is this. Societies are dynamics. Perceptions might be changing in the futures. But given the power asymmetry that happens in status quo and the root causes where this perception happens, people of colors, minority, might not have a lot of say to define what is the stereotype they want to have in the futures given the dynamics of the society compared to the white people. Because when you embrace these stereotypes coming from white people, you succumb and you agree that the stereotype that is given by the majority of people are the stereotypes that are true, that are perfect, that are accurate. And this accuracy gives entitlement to the white people and the majority of the society to continuously dictate what kind of perceptions and how you should behave inside the society. And we don't think that this is really something that we should embrace as an ethnic minority. Irrespective of the harm, this is not something that is correct to do. We close the opening debate.